In the time before time, when the stars still spoke to the earth and rivers whispered secrets to the trees, the ancestors of the Wangona, one of the oldest branches of what would one day be known as the Venda, had already made their home in the lands surrounding Mapungubwe. These were no wanderers or settlers in search of promise. They were the custodians of sacred hills, valleys, and rivers, living in communion with the spirits of the land since at least the 6th century. Rooted deeply in the rhythms of the earth, their stories were carved into stone, sung through rain, and echoed in the golden fires they kindled. They were a people of the drum, the horn, the ritual fire, preservers of Mupo, the cosmic order passed from elder to child in a lineage as unbroken as the flow of the Limpopo. By the 11th century, King Shiriyadenga, a towering figure of divine authority, ruled over Mapungubwe, the spiritual and political heart of this ancient civilization. His leadership marked a golden age in the chronicles of Venda history. Crowned atop Tavayaladzim, the mountain of the spirit, Shiriyadenga was more than a monarch. He was the chosen voice of the ancestors. With more than 10 wives, including the revered Nyapopi and Nyadenga, he fathered many sons whom he dispatched across the land to govern distant regions, spreading sacred law and upholding unity. His royal court was a beacon of Mupo, where law, spirit, and ceremony converged. It was not a kingdom built on conquest, but on cosmic balance, ancestral reverence, and the deep ancient roots of a people who had always called Mapungubwe home. In time, a migrating clan, one of the many Tshivenda-speaking lineages, arrived from the north, drawn by visions, shifting climates, and tales of a red-soiled hill where lions walked without fear and spirits welcomed the pure of heart. Led by the spiritual elder Mudogwa, they sought not to conquer but to reconnect, to rejoin their ancestral kin, guided by sacred omens, including the appearance of a white rhino shrouded in golden dust. They made their way to Mapungubwe, where they were welcomed into the sacred fold. Here, in harmony with the Wangona, and under the rule of King Shiriyadenga, they found not a new kingdom, but the heart of an ancient one. Together they forged an era of spiritual power, artistic brilliance, and enduring unity, an age still remembered in drumbeats and dreams. His court atop Mapungubwe Hill was not just a seat of power, but a beacon of Venda civilization, where kings ruled not by sword alone, but by the will of the ancestors. The king's kraal was built atop the hill, inaccessible to ordinary people. Only priests, healers, and royal family members could ascend it, keeping the king separate and sacred. Where Shiriyadenga brought royal authority and political unity, Mudogwa brought ancestral wisdom, spiritual legitimacy, and an unwavering commitment to Mupo, the Venda cosmic order. The hill became the spiritual capital, while the valley below turned into an economic hub. The Venda artisans introduced new techniques for smelting gold using stone furnaces and clay crucibles. They were patient workers, often singing while hammering or polishing, believing that song strengthened the metal's spirit. From crude nuggets, they shaped thin sheets, beads, bangles, and animals, each an offering to the ancestors. Mudogwa led rituals to bless the gold mines, consecrated the sacred drum, Ngoma ya Vadzim, and taught that true power came from harmony with the land and its spirits, not conquest alone. He was also a key voice in the Council of Elders, ensuring that royal decisions reflected ancestral will. Soon word spread of the sacred kingdom where the sun kissed the gold and the king communed with the ancestors. Traders from Kilwa, Sofala, and further east along the Swahili coast began arriving with dhow boats along the Limpopo's navigable stretches. They brought with them glass beads, Chinese porcelain, and cotton cloth in exchange for ivory, salt, and gold. There are Venda or Venda people familiar with both the land and the rituals acted as mediators, interpreters between foreign traders and royal protocol. They maintained the gold roots, guarded the secrets of the mines and ensured the spiritual purity of the trade. Gold was not mere currency, it was a symbol of divine favor. Only those chosen by the ancestors could mine or work it. The artisans prayed and bathed before touching gold. Every royal burial included golden artifacts, not for wealth, but for guiding the soul to the ancestral realm. Among these sacred artisans was a young man named Chianeo. Orphaned by fever, he had been raised by a blind elder who taught him to see with his hands. Chianeo sculpted a small golden rhino for the burial of a prince who died too young. The artifact was so powerful, so graceful that it was said to carry the spirit of the kingdom itself. The rhino was buried atop the hill beside the prince, and legend holds that on stormy nights it rises and roams the savannah, protecting the land. Chianeo's rhino would one day be unearthed by archaeologists thousands of years later, but its spirit remains rooted in the hearts of the Venda people. It became a symbol not only of Mapungubwe's golden age, but of the unity between artisans and royals, between land and spirit. As Mapungubwe grew, so did its complexities. There, Venda and other groups formed a layered society: nobility, artisans, traders and farmers, each with their role. The king was not just ruler, but a custodian of harmony. The Venda philosophy of Zivuya, goodness and order, guided laws, marriages, punishments, and praise songs. But power, like gold, can be heavy. Some chiefs began hoarding wealth, traders demanded more ivory. External pressures mounted as newer kingdoms rose to the north and east. The ancestors sent warnings: droughts, strange illnesses, and a red moon. King Shiriyadenga, who reigned during the early 13th century, was the second known ruler of the ancient kingdom of Mapungubwe. He succeeded King Shiriyadenga, the founding monarch credited with establishing sacred kingship atop the legendary Mapungubwe Hill, also known as Havayavadzim, the Mountain of the Spirit. Shiriyadenga inherited not only a thriving society rooted in Venda cosmology, but also a delicate balance of spiritual authority and political power. Eventually, around 1270 AD, the royal family abandoned the hill. Some say it was a political fracture. Others believe the spirits withdrew their favor. But the Venda people never forgot. Even as they dispersed to Tohoyando and the South Pansberg Mountains, they carried the stories. They buried their kings in sacred caves, sang songs of the Hill of Gold, and taught children that their ancestors once walked with lions and shaped gold for the gods. With foresight and resolve, Chief Mudogwa chose to lead a group of loyal families further south, seeking a new land where Mupo could be restored and the old ways protected. Today, in the echoes of Mapungubwe's red cliffs, the spirit of the Venda endures. In their music, pottery, and rituals, the memory of that golden age lives on, a time when they arrived not as conquerors but as custodians. They shaped a kingdom with fire, belief, and their deep knowledge of the earth. And in the golden rhino, they left behind proof that Africa's past was never silent, only waiting to be heard.